Youth for Christ said, don't worry about the language, we got interpreters. Eisenhower said the world will end in 1952. The atomic bomb will obliterate the entire world. Not the second coming of Christ, the end of the world. Eisenhower, the general. So who needs a language? Team said, you go up to the mountains and you learn the language. Team mission was the oldest, one of the oldest, and you could only come to Japan sponsored by a missionary who was there before the war. And so Team and OMS and old-time missionaries, Presbyterian, the Methodists, they had to sponsor you. No newcomers unless you're sponsored. So Team, I was a team missionary on loan to Youth for Christ. But the Youth for Christ guys, 37 of them, hit the language wall and bounced, and they went home. They did great work through interpreters. So I had to go through Yale Jail, the Yale University language course. And if you had kids with diapers, it took you 2 years. No diapers, I got through in 8 months. And then I hit the road. And I bought me the only car there was Austin from England. And I bought me a pickup truck, and I put on the back, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. And sins are washed away in the blood of Christ. And put that banner behind me and started preaching. Everywhere I went, I was invited by a Japanese pastor who wanted to have a big meeting. And it was all street meetings, the hardest in the world. And if you can preach on the street, you can preach anywhere. After the war, we thought they would all be anti-American. They loved us. They welcomed us. They never saw a white-faced foreigner in their life. This was Japan that was locked for 250 years. Barbed wire around it, so it was a completely closed country. And now the war is over. The emperor, never been heard before, got on the radio and said, this is like the winter snow on a bamboo tree. The bamboo tree is bending over under the heavy snow, but cheer up because spring will come and it'll bounce back up. I am not divine. I am a man called the Ningen Sengen, or the proclamation of his manhood. Up till now, he was a divinity. And the people were completely deceived, and they wanted anything new. And so they welcomed us. These people are talking about Jesus. They're passing out tracts. Wow. So they received us with open arms. And anti-Western, I never ran into it. So, of course, on my way down, I spent 7 months on the road, never came back. Every night, a meeting, every afternoon, a children's meeting, every night, another meeting. We got to Hiroshima, and there was a Hiroshima museum for foreigners. And I saw all this stuff. But in my mind, I knew that the Japanese were ready with bamboo sharpened sticks. They were going to fight till they died, and there would have been more than 1 million Japanese killed. You can't fight American army with bamboo sticks. And so, in my mind, Hiroshima, where 78,000 people were killed by an atom bomb, in Tokyo, 100,000 were killed by a fire bomb. If you're going to be anti-atom bomb, you better be anti-fire too. Can you do that? So in my mind, the Hiroshima was a blessing to save 1 million lives. And Nagasaki, same. The reason that was bombed is they couldn't find Fukuoka. They were trying to bomb the factories that were putting out the aircraft. They were not bombing, just civilians. And so they were going to this place, Fukuoka, where the factories were, and a cloud covered it. They couldn't find it. So plan B was Nagasaki, again, where they were making war equipment.
I knew all about him from working at Team Office in Chicago. In fact, in his correspondence, we found a letter that I had written. And I had seen his mother, and someone said, that's Kenny Joseph's mother. Well, I didn't care about Kenny Joseph. And someone, when I was in Montana, someone gave me his prayer card, and I threw it away because I didn't want to be praying for this single guy. Well, then I first met him. I was singing in the choir in the mountains of Japan. In the Sunday morning service, we had a choir, and I was singing in the choir, and I saw him come in the back, and he had sunglasses on because he had conjunctivitis. And that was the first time I had ever seen him. And then as time went on, I got interested in this guy. I thought, no, sir, I'm not. I'm going to be a missionary. I'm not going to fall for some guy now. And so I just sort of made myself not be interested, but still I was kind of interested in him. And the other girls, one of them, they were engaged, two of them were engaged and so forth. And we lived in this single girl's house, and we had a great time. We studied the language. And so then finally I said one day, well, Lord, if he's for me, have him come to that meeting tonight. I had to play the organ at a meeting. And lo and behold, he walked in and then he walked out again. I thought, oh, brother, that's interesting. So that was my introduction to him. Then eventually we started to date. And my dad had said, it took a while for my dad to write, because, my dad was very protective of me. And it took a while. Then Kenny wrote to him and asked if he could marry me, and my dad didn't answer. And finally, Mom said, aren't you going to answer that letter you got? And then he did sit down and answered it.